विराटे रुद्रास्तिष्ठन्तु ऊर्ध्यादित्यास्तिष्ठन्तु शिरसि महादेवस्तिष्ठतु.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. My name is Garen, and this morning our live Q&A here on Facebook Live is going to be about ego triggers. And this came in as a request from one of our group members, actually, and they had messaged us regarding ego triggers. So we're going to talk about ego triggers today. Good morning, Janet. Nice to see you this morning. Kelly's here as well. She's sitting on the couch. We're just talking that maybe she should have tried getting off a different side of the bed this morning, although we kind of figured there wasn't the right side this morning. So she said next time she's going to try straight up in the morning. So ego triggers. This is actually a really good topic because no matter how along we feel we are, what happens is all of a sudden we'll run into an event or a situation and we'll go totally unconscious, right back to sleep, just like that. It happens all the time. And there are a number of things that trigger the ego, and we're going to talk about them here. And I've created this nice little storyboard graphic for our discussion today. And again, this is one of the reasons why we're trying to advance our video quality and produce better and better quality videos. So ego triggers. One of the first and primary of all ego triggers is, of course, past experiences. Now, here's what I really mean when I say things are not personal. Let's say you find yourself in the office or at your work, and without you even being consciously aware of it, all of a sudden you're in an argument with an angry coworker, and you're not even sure why. And you take it quite personally. But of course, what you don't understand isn't actually what's just happened that's angered the coworker. What's just happened just served as a trigger. Okay, it's like lighting a fuse. And this is what the mind does. This is what ego is best at doing, and it's a perfectly valid survival tool for us as human beings, but in dysfunction, it literally becomes dysfunctional, okay? And here's what happens. We're going to use just an innocuous example of, let's make it simple. Your child leaves their room a mess. And unbeknownst to your child, when you were young and you left your room at a mess, you were beaten for it. And you were beaten hard. So your room had to be always perfect. And when you walk in after asking your child to clean up their room a couple hours ago and you see that the room is still a mess and they haven't done anything, you blow your top. Why? Well, you blew your top because what you see in front of you is triggering a flood of past experiences that are brought to the surface for you to do a comparative analysis on. This is what ego does. How does this situation today match something I've already been through? Of course, the issue is what's happening today only serves as the trigger. So your responses come out of that past experience place. What wells up is anything that you thought negatively about that past experience. Any of the lies you sold yourself. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the lies that ego tells as well, so we can be crystal clear on that. The second ego trigger is, of course, guilt. And again, this is about the past. And as I've said in the video, Guilt and Fear, the Enemies of Mankind, and if you haven't seen that video, you really should take a look at it. It may be Fear and Guilt. It's one or the other, FGGF. Guilt keeps us locked in the past. It forms a sticking point for us. And whenever anything comes up in relation to the guilt we feel about a past incident, we of course reenact all those guilty feelings. all those negative, false feelings we've convinced ourselves through our thoughts, we start reenacting those. The thoughts come back up, and the feelings start coming back up. And then, of course, we end up going unconscious. And you know, one of the things, one of the easiest ways you can see the guilt is in the mother. Yeah, Janet said fear and guilt is what religion is based on. And that's exactly that. Guilt that you've sinned, right, and been caught at it by your Creator, because He's always watching one way or the other. And fear that you're not good enough and not going to get into a place called heaven one day unless you toe the line the right way. And as I've said, you know, speaking of fear and guilt, the one thing every single Christian, every single monotheistic believer has in the back of their mind is that little niggling doubt that despite what they think, their Creator is not going to let them in the gate. And yes, it is all about control. But, and Janet brought that up. It's a very good point, Janet. But we must remember that religion is simply ego writ large again. That same ego, that's why I speak of the ego as a collective whole manifested individually in human beings as well, okay? Ego as a collective energy form. A giant computer, supercomputer memory bank in reality, okay? That's become conscious. Hello, Rianne. Nice to see you this morning. Glad you could make it. Kelly says hi too. She's over on the couch.
Hi, Rianne.
So this ego will try to keep us asleep, right? And guilt about our past is one of the primary ego triggers that comes up after those past experiences. And that guilt, of course, is false. And we're going to talk a little more about that when we get through the list. Oh, Rianne says hi. Another ego trigger is, of course, fear, and fear is all based upon the future. You know, so we're involved in a meeting with our boss, and our boss is talking about how the necessity for our job is disappearing within the company. And we become fearful immediately. And our reaction is one based out of fear. But if we would have stayed calm and been at peace, instead we find out that what the boss was really saying is, well, we love having you and we're going to promote you into a different position so that we can keep you. But our instant reaction out of fear before he could even get to that point causes us to react negatively, and before we know it, we've actually lost our job. Now, maybe that's an overstated example to some degree of fear, but in a lot of cases, it's not overstated. That's exactly what fear does. You have a perceived fear of how something is going to turn out, and that's based upon the way you think and about the way you perceive. And we're going to recap those as well after this. And of course, in your thoughts and in your perceptions, you forget that they're not real. The fear of losing your job is only that. It's a fear of losing your job. More importantly, it's really not a fear of losing your job. It's a fear of what will happen if you lose your job. And this is where ego loves to live. We're going to leave subconscious memory till the last because that one is the most difficult to deal with and to catch. Okay, so we're going to come back to the one, and I do apologize. That's my misordering of the topics on this storyboard I've made. Our present thoughts are also responsible in triggering ego. Okay, so we are already in a bad space in our head over something that's happening to us, and somebody triggers us through somehow making light of it or making it less or seeing it as not as such a big deal. And of course we think it's a big deal, so we again go unconscious and react out of that space. what we think of ourselves, and Debbie had posted a post this morning that was talking about love again, as I had spoken about in Love Redone, and it's very true what they said in that post. Okay, we tend to have a really low, not enough, not worthy, and this is one of the other things that religion does, and I got to tell you, I'm not a guy who hates, but if I had to hate something, it would be that. I despise the concept that religion would try and sell you that you are not a beautiful, complete, whole, perfect, good being from the moment you came in here. You were not born out of sin. You were not born out of a mistake. You were not born to a creator that would condemn you for any reason at all. Christina here is also here. Oh, hello, Christina. Nice to see you this morning. My wife Kelly says hi. She's on the couch. She likes listening on the couch because she kind of lays back, closes her eyes, gets in a little bit of a meditative state, and just kind of sucks it in. So again, what we think of ourselves, and this is the biggest reason why I despise organized religion. Okay, organized religion would sell you the concept that you are in need of something, and that is not the case. You are a whole, powerful spiritual being here having a human experience, and when you truly come into that knowing, that realization, you will no longer be triggered. Subconscious memory. This is the one we're going to save for the last part of this before we cover off the rest of this program. Subconscious memories are the most difficult of ego triggers to deal with, although you can catch them. And this is what it's all about, okay? Our spiritual path is not a straight line. We're a meandering species. We like to stop, we like to look around, we like to travel a few steps back sometimes. Every once in a while we'll poke our head down a hill and fall and roll down the hill and have to pick ourselves back up again and carry on down the path. This is the reality of our conscious evolution in spirit, which is manifest in the physical realm. Subconscious memories, things that we've buried, things that we've forgotten on the conscious level, but still exist in that sea of unconsciousness. And in that sea of unconsciousness, you have two parts. You have the collective unconscious, of which you're part of as the human race, and you have your own unconscious mind. And out of those two places, things can arise that will trigger ego. Now, what do we do about ego triggers? As Eckhart Tolle would say, and I want to compliment the group member who sent the post regarding ego triggers and the request for the video on ego triggers. They did send it in Messenger, so I cannot reveal the name. It was private. But of course, we do the video to the benefit of everyone. But this member, I do want to compliment because they pointed out that as they watched themselves create all this drama about their situation, they became aware that they were creating all the drama. And they consciously caught themselves. Now, this is something that my wife Kelly is guilty of. When she catches herself, she immediately becomes frustrated. Immediately. I can see it happen. You can see the energy of frustration just freeze her like a block for a minute or two. And she'll go, "Ugh." And I'll say, "Honey, what are you doing?" So I'm frustrated with myself. Ego being frustrated with ego is a never-ending loop that you can never get out of. Believe it or not, it's a victory. Whenever you catch your own unconscious behavior, you are bringing part of that unconscious energy, that unconscious ego, into the light of your true awareness, and in that, the victory is already won. In bringing that unconscious behavior into the light of your awareness, you have already reduced the chances of it reoccurring. And more you will become on guard over time. More and more you will see these patterns starting to rise, and you'll say to yourself, I don't want to go there. I care too much about the way I feel about myself. I love myself too much. I value myself as a sanctified, holy, powerful spiritual being among 7.5 billion others here having a human experience, both collectively and individually. When you do this, when you simply bring it into the light of your awareness, you've already dissolved part of that energy body. You've already made that first step. Remember, our brain, we have hacked paths through the jungle to various destinations in our head. And we've hacked these paths nice and clear and clean. So it's easy for ego to keep going down them. I'm going to go down the path of not good, I'm not good enough. And then the next day, I'm going to go down the path of I'm not worthy. I need somebody. I can't do it by myself. And as the one post a few weeks ago, the story about walking down the street and falling in the same hole over and over again, until finally we choose not to walk down that street. This is exactly what we're doing when we become consciously aware of what the thought processes are and how our body is reacting to them. Our group member found herself feeling yucky and caught it, realized her body was feeding her an alarm, saying, wait a minute, your thoughts are out of line with truth. And she caught it. And within a few minutes, she began to feel better all of a sudden. This is the victory. This is a gold star on the day when this happens to you. Do not be frustrated with yourself. We're going to cover over the whole thing about perceptions and thoughts again shortly as relates to ego triggers, as well as the concept of how we lie to ourselves, okay? Because this is very important when it comes to ego triggers as well. Now, our thoughts are simply thoughts. They have no external reality other than that which we create with them over time. The more you concentrate and think about something, the more likely you are to see it manifest in your life. So, for example, if you are always coming from the place of experiencing lack, and all your thoughts are about lack, the universe will continue with you in a lacking state. Why? Because that's what you're attracting. That's what you're focused on all the time. And that is not a blame issue. We do it consciously and unconsciously. We are creators. We are here to create. We are here to learn to create responsibly and consciously. Hello, Sue, and Debbie's here too. Nice to see you. So we're going to cover off about our perceptions and thoughts when it relates to this. So our thoughts become negative, and they cause our perceptions. And our perceptions are nothing more than what we feel about our thoughts. So if we have negative thoughts that we are somehow not good enough, okay, over a short period of time, the body will begin to manifest that dissonant energy, and it will set off an alarm bell, and we'll feel maybe lackadaisical, like we have a lack of energy, or maybe we'll feel a little bit depressed. The same thing happens when we think thoughts about how someone had harmed us and we become angry inside. Okay? Your ego, in anything that it feeds to you that's negative, it's feeding you a lie. if you look closely at it, you'll be able to see the lie in it. And the way you know it's a lie is your body will react dissonantly. It will produce feelings of dissonance. All the negative feeling states are from the body as alarm bells. They serve no other purpose. No other purpose. And we don't want to get caught up in, while Sue says, felt not good enough today and saw the story and recognized that was ego and not me. And that's exactly what happens. We can actually recognize it. We can catch it. We can see ourselves going down that road and say, whoa, wait a minute, I'm starting to feel bad. What am I doing? I'm thinking bad thoughts. Start hacking those new trails in the head. Instead of feeling like you're not enough, reaffirm with yourself that you are enough. Instead of falling into anger at the thoughts that someone's hurt you, instead understand that the being you are cannot be harmed. And it is only your egoic perception of harm. And when you consider where the other comes from and that the other is you, you see that their lashing out is actually a cry for help. You know, when we look at all the spiritual beings, Sydney says she slept in this morning. Well, it's 9:22 my time, Sydney. We're early morning risers. We like to get up, 6 a.m. and in the summertime around 4:30 actually. And the reason being is so we can get out and get all the things we like to do done before it gets too hot. And then we come crawl back in the house and live in the basement for the rest of the day. So our thoughts and how we perceive our thoughts, okay, which is the feelings that our bodies understand, our bodies resonate to us to tell us this, are important insofar as that they give us our alarms. They give us our, you're on the right path. Rianne says 4:30. There's one of those in the morning. I'll just digress or stray off the path here for a minute since we're having a little bit of a conversation as well. But at 3 a.m. in the morning, the collective consciousness, the ego, is as low as it gets in the area in which you live. Okay, so at 3 a.m. in the morning, there's more people asleep than awake. As a general rule, in the area in which you live, there'll be more people asleep than there are awake. And at 3 a.m., the reason why the veil is the thinnest, the reason why it's that much easier to reach across the line into the what we would term the spiritual world, which is just a slightly different vibrational state, okay, is that the collective ego unconsciousness is not so powerful. It's reduced. And one summer, it was so hot in Vernon before I met Kelly. I mean, our daytime temperatures were pressing 46 degrees centigrade. And if you have not been in 46 degrees with 80% humidity, it is not a fun place to be when you're in a city. It's terrible, especially if you don't have air conditioning. And in that incredible heat, I used to get up about 2:30 in the morning and basically live at night until about 10 a.m. and then go back to sleep for most of the way. Janet Lynn says people in nursing homes pass away at that time in the morning more often than not. Yes, and that's the same reason too, okay? Exactly the same reason. The egoic beings that are caring for the person in the nursing home, or not, they may not have someone. In either case, though, the collective unconsciousness is at a lower state. the communication with our higher selves flows more naturally. In Taoism and Taoist practices, 3 a.m. is a very important time to be up meditating. And it's recommended that you meditate at between 3 and 4 a.m. in the morning. I've done it for years in monasteries. Excuse me. And it was early in the morning. There'd be sometimes I'd fall asleep sitting up meditating. So we understand now that our thoughts produce the feelings we have. It's not the other person, okay? And this is very, very important that we understand. When we are in a situation with someone else and we are wanting to blame them for making us feel the way we do, it's a lie. Nobody has the power to make you do anything. Nobody. You cannot give that power away as much as you would like to. And the reason why people love to give it away is because with that power comes responsibility for the way you feel. And the way you feel is only a result of the way you are thinking. I can't make this clearer. And this is so important. I am not trying to lay blame at people's feet. I am trying to lay your power back at your feet. It is not blame. It is responsibility. It is responsibility to your higher self. It is a love for yourself, a love for your higher being, a love for all that you are that says, I value the way I think and the way I feel more than I value any other input coming in. And therefore, I will perceive and deal with those inputs in accordance with valuing my state of being first. Now that sounds really selfish. You think, well, I'm supposed to be there for others. Again, one of these days, Kelly's going to take the baseball bat to me. I just know it. But again, she was a prime example of this. Always trying to appease, always trying to fix, always trying to make things right, but never, ever valuing herself and her own state of being first. And you know what happens when you do that? When you always put yourself out there for others, trying to please, to fix, to do, and you don't look after yourself? When I met Kelly, she was already entertaining thoughts about ending her own life. Why? Because she saw no way out. Rianne says this, don't need to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. That's exactly it. You don't. You can hug them. Sue Gaskell says, I'm so relieved to understand at this level. I momentarily gave my power away and it was horrible. At a family funeral, I knew I mattered and loved myself through the painful rejection from my son, who was riddled with guilt in his story. And Janet replies that she has been in the same place that Kelly has been there too. And this is true. In Kelly's situation, we're still dealing with it. She finally had a conversation with her mother after 3.5 years, and her mother is lost in space. She really has a totally wild, different perception. But I said to Kelly, you can't blame her for her perceptions. You can't force her to change her perceptions. You can't force anyone. The only thing you can deal with is you and what you choose. See, the biggest part of ego triggers is, of course, reaction. right? And what is reaction? We literally react the same part we've played before. Shakespeare said, the whole world's a stage, and it is. And we are actors upon that stage, and actresses. And when we react to something we see in front of us today, we are not conscious. We are literally reacting the old script. And that's what happens. Ego drags that old script out and says, I remember this part. And it goes ahead and it lives that entire part again. All the pain, all the frustration, all the anger, all the sadness, all the whatever happened, it relives it again. And here's the tricky part. The body does not differentiate between what goes on internally and what goes on externally, so the body takes the full brunt of that reaction again. This is why I throw your power back at your own feet. You cannot blame anyone else. Any statement that begins, you make me, is a lie. There is not a statement you can make that starts with you make me towards someone else and it be the truth. We are making choices, consciously or unconsciously, and you should not beat yourself up for the conscious and unconscious choices that we make. They are all leading us, all evolving us forward, all growing us forward. The very last point of ego triggers is, of course, to understand that the thoughts we have are not who we are. You know, in this particular example, the group member was working very hard and looking at some pictures of friends or relatives she knows who were out on vacation. And she began to beat up on herself about how she was not good enough and not worthy and what's the matter with me and I don't have enough money. And she caught herself. She took back her own power that she was giving away unconsciously to others and said, no, there's nothing wrong with me. I am a whole, complete being. And whatever is, just is. This is where gratitude can really, really help. You know, our basement, we had the Strata Council over here last night and we were talking with them, and it'll be months if we see our basement before the end of the summer. I'll be surprised. They may have to dig out. I just put in a beautiful pond, and we have to dig out part of the pond, wreck my pond, wreck our deck, wreck the yard we've worked on for the last 3 years, and dig all around the foundation to repair it. And this may be the reality of it. Standing fully in my personal power, I look at it and I say, well, it's just stuff. My ego might want to make all these stories about it. But you know what? In gratitude, I recognize that even with a flooded basement and missing a floor in our home, we are still better off than 1 billion other people on the planet at a minimum. I've got a full fridge. I've got a freezer and a pantry stuffed with food. We have a warm bed and a roof over our heads. We have 2 dry floors to live on. And I can fish and swim in my basement right now. Life isn't so bad. Cindy says that gratitude has helped me grow more than anything, and it is true. The only prayer you ever need pray is thank you. The reason this is true is because before you have even asked for it, the universe has already anticipated, and that what you truly need to grow and to evolve is placed right in front of you. Excuse me. What matters is if we can become aware of it or not. And Janet said it correctly. No matter how bad you think you're off, how bad you think you are, bad off you think you are, sorry. There's always someone worse. And I would point out that there's always hundreds of millions of worse. We are so fortunate in so many ways. This attitude of gratitude can help carry you through your ego triggers as well. Why? Because the next time someone triggers you, you can be grateful for them being there to trigger you. Now, I'm not saying if you get into an argument with someone who makes you feel like crap, and again, words makes you feel like crap, okay? Hello, Susan. Nice to see you too. You can look at them after the fact. You may not be able to look at them in the actual event, but you can look at them after the fact and feel gratitude for them. And as Sue says, love is the glue that binds us together. Ultimately, that's what we are, is the glue. Love. Really is. It's very important that we and it's a great thing that people can learn at a young age, and we lack that today. We don't seem to be teaching our children to be grateful for even the little things. And when you're grateful for the little tiny things, life just becomes better and better and better. Because you're not looking to some far off place saying, well, I'll be happy when. You're being happy right now with what's here right now. And that is the surest way to see more come. It took Kelly a while to understand me when we first got together, because I don't worry about anything. Things come, they come. They go, they go. Things are up, they're up. They're down, they're down. There's no have-tos, no must-dos, no will-dos, only what's happening right now. This is the place where we truly live life. And the closer, the more presence we build over time, the less and less our ego will trigger us. The less and less we'll find ourselves, we'll actually get to the point where we'll see the trigger coming. And we'll go, not this time. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to play the old part. I'm going to instead create. Now, the funny thing, creation, reaction, spelled of all the same letters. It's just a switch in your perspective. That's all it takes. Much love to you all, and I must say that it is I who feel blessed. It is I who feel honored. All of you give me the opportunity to stay focused in this every single day, to always be thinking about the next thing to talk about, the next point to bring up, the next way to help shed some light in the darkness. And that is the gift that you give me. You allow me to teach what I need to learn. And this is a beautiful thing. Much love to you all, of course. And namaste. I'm going to leave you with a minute of some meditative music. And I do want people to comment in the actual comment section, if they can, in the announcements, as to whether or not you would like to see some meditative videos come out, some actually guided meditations with Kelly's piano to help with some of these things. Again, much love, namaste. We hope to see you again very soon. And have a wonderful day, really. Take care.